On NFL team ratings. 56% of people in the survey say they believe NFL TV ratings are down because of Anthem protests. Other factors that have been cited as why people are watching less football: the presidential election, 50%, oversaturation of games, 44%, focusing on postseason baseball, 39%, and head injuries and the decline of play, 33%. Darren Woodson in the house. How we doing?
Good. How y'all doing?
Good to see you, as always.
Very friendly to Omar Epps, that old Cowboy fan. I saw you guys are very.
It's Friday. In good spirits.
That's my dog. We go back a long ways. If he was in here as much as I see you, I'd have got on him too. But since it's rare that I've seen him in the last couple of years, I decided to be nice.
Also,
trust me.
Yes, he's a Cowboys fan, but he is from Brooklyn. It kind of counteracts.
Couldn't find him. But let's go.
All right, I'm going to start with Max here. What do you think is the primary reason why the NFL ratings are down?
First, let's be very clear. This is not a poll of people who stopped watching the NFL where they're asked, why have you stopped watching the NFL? This is a poll of people who are asked, why do they think NFL ratings are down? Those are two very different things. The latest poll, a Rasmussen poll from early October, where they were asked, like, what about you? Why are you watching less NFL? 32% said the protests, not the majority. It wasn't the number one answer. Yep. So why do I think first of all, the presidential election is dwarfing everything else? That's the specific reason right now. And furthermore, there are the primetime games, the high-profile games have stunk. Yes. Right? So you're putting out a product when most eyeballs are on it that hasn't been very good or competitive. And then everyone's thinking about politics at the moment and following that, because that's actually a sport. You know, sports, no matter how much we are into them and passionate about them, ultimately the outcome is trivial. We root, and then whatever happens doesn't actually affect the real world. Politics, for many people, is a sport in which the outcome is anything but trivial. It's real. And your participation actually influences so it's kind of a better version of sports right now, and it's taking eyeballs away. And then the big general issue is the splintering of entertainment options. You know, the NFL has largely been immune from this. They haven't suffered the effects of this because it's a shared experience. It's the one time where everyone's watching the same thing still as the NFL. But it doesn't mean it's never going to affect them. There are more entertainment options. Yeah. We can time shift with DVR. There's cord cutting with online stuff, etc. And I think the protests probably play a part, but it's down the list.
I agree. You know, I'm with you on that. I remember in 2014, Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban said one thing. He said, when pigs get fat, pigs get slaughtered. And he was talking about the NFL and the oversaturation of the NFL game on Thursday nights, Sunday nights, Sunday nights, and then again Monday. People are tired of watching the games. And then you sprinkle in the college games that are on Thursday night and Saturday at the same time. We're seeing too much. And just last night, I'm not sure if you two watched that game last night, the Tennessee Titans.
I watched it.
And the Jags last night.
I turned it on, and they were already down 23. I was disgusted. I just said I moved on. I started watching the Blacklist. I ain't going to lie.
The color schemes are bad. Right. And not only the color schemes, but the game was terrible.
Yeah. They quit on coach.
It's hard to watch Thursday night football.
Good luck with Gus Bradley having a job after the season.
I don't think it's going to happen. But I just think that's what's happening to us right now. And again, we're going up against the debate. So it's like that perfect storm right now. And I think the league, in the end, should give the networks the ability to have flex scheduling. We see week 4. There are 1 and 3 teams on a Thursday night.
That's a great point.
I mean, it's tough to watch. It's hard to watch games when you have bad matchups. Yep. The networks need to be able to find favorable matchups and show the audience.
Well, first of all, the networks need to do a better job at the negotiating table of enforcing that they get better matchups. Because if I'm paying you billions of dollars, you ain't going to give me some weak product with a team I don't want to watch. Right. So let's get that out of the way, okay? Because Monday Night Football ratings are down. That was like 19%. Sunday Night Football was down, about 10%. Thursday night ratings were down 15%. We get that. And we understand. I don't disagree with any of y'all with what you said already in terms of the other issues. But I want to go to the protest. And I want to say that can't be ignored. You know, the fact of the matter is that this is the part, and this is what I was alluding to when I was talking about what the Sixers had a right to do. I didn't agree with their decision by not letting the girls sing the national anthem, but they had a right to do it. Here's why they have a right to do it. They're thinking about their bottom line. Right. They're recognizing the fact that 66% of our population in America is white. which means that most of the money comes from that particular populace. If you believe that in some way you're alienating them and they're turning against you, then they ain't gonna give you their money. And if they ain't gonna give you their money, that's what your bottom line is. Everybody want to act like that doesn't exist, but it does. Listen, I'm a registered, I'm not going to get political here, but I'm just going to be forthcoming. I am a registered independent. I don't trust either side, okay? I listen to my man Joe Madison in the morning on Sirius XM Urban View channel. I listen to Mark Levin in the evening, okay? I think he's a fantastic radio host, and I listen to Sean Hannity, and I know all of these guys. I listen to everybody. As crazy as it may be, combined, they've got over 25 million listeners. There's a reason for that. You talk to Joe Madison, it's about these protests. You talk to somebody like a Mark Levin, who I butt heads with all the time, even though I profoundly respect his knowledge, this man will tell you it's the protest. You know, so what happens is this. He is white. I am not. Right. I don't know how he feels until he says so. So when he sits there and he says, there's a lot of folks out here who look like me, who share my cultural identity, et cetera, who is offended by what this man has done, who is offended by what we're seeing. Now you got a decision to make, business-wise.
I want to address that.
And nobody wants to go there. See, we want to, and all I'm saying is this, do what you're going to do, because you're absolutely right to bring attention to racial injustice in this country. There's no question about that. But as Joe Madison would always say, it's about sacrifice, meaning understand that there is a price you are going to pay. Ask yourself, are you willing to do it? And a lot of times when folks are out here protesting, they want to speak and they want to vent, but they don't want to be prepared to accept the ramifications of that. And a guy like Joe Madison is saying, no, go ahead.
You bring up that white people are 66% of the population.
Yes, sir.
And that represents a large economic voting bloc, essentially. Sure. First of all, the way you look is not necessarily the way you self-identify in terms of culture.
True.
So that right now, the biggest voting and economic bloc, or the biggest bloc of people that can vote economically, is actually the multiracial coalition that is likely to elect the next president and who elected the president in the previous 2 elections. That'll be 3 in a row. And the NFL, so let's talk about Goodell so far. Let's bring it back to the NFL. If, in fact, the protests are having an outsized impact on viewership, on the bottom line of the NFL, now is where Goodell has a chance to rewrite his legacy and really earn his money. It was unclear whether Goodell was even going to survive the Ray Rice scandal, but he's been so successful economically for the league, financially for the league, he did. Now comes the tricky part, because these protests aren't going anywhere. And also they're becoming increasingly popular. They also reflect a huge, maybe the largest part of the population, not just the so-called minority point of view anymore. So it's the NFL and the sports leagues who have milked patriotism through the national anthem for 100 years now. I revealed they are the ones who injected, at times, as Michael Eric Dyson has pointed out, not just patriotism, but nationalism, which is a little different. It's not just that I love America, it's I love America no matter what happens.
Let me go to Darren for the...
I just want to finish this point. And so now if that's actually coming into conflict now, because not everyone wants to stand for it, and it's not compulsory, nor should it be, then all of a sudden, what does the league do? They have to pivot from being this monolith where everyone supposedly believes in the same stuff to being something else if they want to keep making money. They've milked patriotism for all it's worth.
Yeah, fine. But what I'm saying to you is this. Just like you talked about that multicultural base that will influence an election, that doesn't necessarily have a profound impact on what they fuel economically as it pertains to respective sports. It's one thing to tell me that the Latino community and the black community are going to play a very pivotal role in who becomes our next president. Conceded that with no argument. What I'm saying is they're not necessarily the individuals that are spending the kind of money on NFL or basketball that the white folks are spending. And as a result, if you are that business in the NFL or the NBA, you now have to take into consideration, excuse me, we kind of know who's spending money on our product. Ooh, do we want to do this?
That's
hard. That's hard.
Then in that case, the NFL that has injected this supposedly not mandatory standing for the national anthem, but in effect, they've created a situation where if you don't stand, then it turns fans off. Then maybe they shouldn't have. They need to now take that.
You're talking right and wrong. I'm talking dollars. Go ahead.
You know what? I work with the military a lot. Matter of fact, my foundation helps military veterans find jobs.
Yeah.
And I'm in those circles, and I can tell you this right now: there are so many people that are turned off. In particular, white Americans who are turned off by what's going on politically, as far as Colin Kaepernick and standing and all. So I see that. I hear that all the time, and I think what you just said was spot on. But and what you said exactly the same thing. The NFL has basically projected this patriotism. That's all we've always been about. In the locker room, all we talked about was supporting our real troops. I mean, this is in the NFL. It's always been that. So right now, and what's going on, that all the patriotism that's always been there is not there. You're seeing a lot of minorities raising that up right now, and people are not liking it.
I'm talking dollars. I'm not talking what's right and wrong. I'm talking dollars.
You're accurate, but what we're saying is that if you're the NFL, based off of what you just said, you're taking into consideration that patriotism that you leaned on has now been compromised in the eyes of that audience who's patronizing your product.
So now you got to figure out. This is when Goodell earns his money,
where
he has a chance to rewrite his legacy.
My chops. It doesn't seem as absurd for them to potentially catch the NFL.
Well, no question.
But the NBA
hold on, wait a minute. Which is exactly.
And they have the bigger stars.
Time out. Which is exactly why a team like the Sixers, an NBA team, would take that position. Because, hold on, wait a minute.
Everyone's missing it here.
Because they're saying we're the NBA, and they don't want to go there. They want hands off. They want hands off because they don't want to mess up the cash cow.
Because they don't market themselves as kind of a military.
Oh, you're giving a reason. You're giving a reason.
There's an ongoing
conversation. What the NBA ratings are.
There we go.
Darren, thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate you. Coming up next, know what it is. Send in your videos, people. Come on, you got all weekend. The First Take, Your Take viewer contest is here. You can win a chance to debate Stephen A. and Max right here on national television. All you have to do is go to firsttakeyourtake.com. That's where you need to send them, not Twitter, and then upload a 1-minute video with your best sports debate. Please keep it clean. No music, team logos, trademarks, or copyrighted material so we can air it on the show. 2 winners will be selected by our show staff. Get to work. We want to see it. Meanwhile, there's a few.
Stephen A., please stop making excuses for Golden State. Kawhi Leonard scored 35 points and was 15 from the free throw line. And what that tells me is defense is lacking. Gaining Kevin Durant means losing key bench players and big bodies that was once there on the floor last year.
I'm here to discuss the Los Angeles Rams. But we're only in week 7 and you have 4 losses? You have people spending $100, $115 on parking at the